staring?
He's the one who's staring, look.
I'm Dima. Why don't you come to the villa for a small party tonight?
One of the big things that drew me to the project was that I'd grown up with Le Carré, with Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Constant Gardener is one of my favourite films ever.
The war will kill my family if you don't help me.
Help you? What can I do?
I've been a fan of John le Carré's books since I was 13, when my father gave me The Spy That Came In From the Cold. And I encountered his universe, which is a very sad and dark universe. Give this to your MI6. Tell them you have a gift from the #1 money launderer from the Russian mafia.
This is maybe what Le Carré does best. He's put two civilian people into the world of espionage. He's plunked them right in the middle of this thriller. And that's really, really quite interesting, because you do think, what would I do? How would I react in this situation? I brought something over for Dima.
Everything has consequences, Perry. There's this kind of old world elegance about the Le Carré world, which is really beautiful. And the intellectual intrigue of the whole thing, of kind of working out and piecing together the story, I think people find that really fascinating as well.
His books are about the human condition and the way people betray each other, love each other, kind of turn on each other, and much more human kind of concerns than just, you know, spy action.
It's a very relatable story. It's a story of a, you know, an every man and every woman couple caught up in the world of intelligence and the world of crime.
It says something about the modern world. It's not a Le Carré of the 50s or the Le Carré of the 60s. It's a Le Carré for now.
Dima doesn't trust us. He'll only deal with us if you and Gail are there.
I can't get involved.
I'm afraid you are involved. This is a very pared-down plot. It's not a whodunit in any way. It's more of a can they do it? So the suspense lies in a much more sort of Hitchcockian way.
It managed to bring two very sort of relevant themes, I think, to what's going on now. One was the idea of Russian influence on the City of London, but I think also Britain's kind of almost decline as a world power. These very British values that came from a time when Britain was on top of the world and therefore had a moral responsibility, and how, as that power has declined, that morality has turned into something far more compromised.
We have a meeting with the secretary tomorrow. You better convince him what Dima has to offer is worth the grief.
I was frightened by it. It sort of disturbed me as a script. I thought it was really interesting. It feels very relevant, very of the moment. As we're filming, things are shifting all around us.
To the future of the Arena Bank.
It not only deals with the issue of Russian money coming into the City of London, but at its heart is an issue of what it feels like to be a man in the 21st century. Perry's character is struggling to define who he is. At the start of the movie, he feels lost. His wife's much more successful than he is. And his journey is one of redefining himself as a man.
They're in Marrakesh to try and sort of save their marriage. That's why I was so attracted to playing this relationship with Naomi, was the fact that it's not often we see the romantic couple in the centre of a story where they've got this sort of broken dynamic.
Your woman just left you. Come have a drink with us.
Dima sucks him into this extraordinary world, and Gail, because she's his wife, also gets sucked into it as well. Perry's doing it because he wants to rediscover his sense of self-worth, to find his passion again, and Gail's doing it solely because she loves this man.
I'm sorry about everything. Naomi and I have never met before, but I think she's a phenomenal actress. I've enjoyed her work, and now I'm really enjoying working with her. And the relationship we have to play in the film is very interesting and layered and detailed. Gail absolutely holds her own, and it's a very modern marriage in that respect.
It was very easy for me to understand why Gail goes on the journey, even though she's so reluctant, because there's something so vulnerable, sensitive, and almost childlike about Ewan's performance as Perry, that it really does pull on your heartstrings.
It was a very interesting journey with Ewan. It says a lot for him as an actor that he wasn't afraid to play a character who's a bit weak at the beginning of the film, who grows in strength as it goes on. And he loved that relationship with Dima, the kind of laddish relationship that they had together, but also it goes to a very emotional place, I think, too.
Professor!
Dima, I love the idea that you could meet this sort of bigger, larger-than-life, dangerous character and be drawn to him and have him sort of fulfill something that you feel is missing in your life. I could really relate to that.
In Paris, he's an honest man. He's not surrounded by good men. He's surrounded by gangsters and business people and bankers and lawyers, and everybody has an agenda that is not always nice.
I absolutely love the place we've taken Dima to. Stellan himself is very much a family man who's got 8 children. He loved that aspect of Dima as a man to whom the family was really important.
The way that Dima and his wife are in the movie is very realistic, is very quiet, cold, but, you know, absolute solid marriage. It's really interesting.
On the one hand, he'd be all hugs and jokes and joviality, but then you have to feel that he's capable of extreme violence, and that was the tightrope that we trod.
Dima is a war, which is a kind of mafia that comes from the prisons in the old Soviet system, which was an organization where you had to swear that you never cooperated with the state. The state was the enemy. You tattooed yourself to declare that you were a criminal and that you were a war. So you couldn't say, I'm not a criminal. You had to stand up and say, I'm a criminal.
You see that guy's tattoos? The knife on the neck means he kills people. The stars on the shoulders means he's a big mafia guy.
I wish I'd known that at the time.
With tattoos, they do tell a story completely. At the same time, with tattoos, we've all got to be careful that people can read them, so they have to be correct. Dima, our character who's been in prison, and all the sort of markings that suggest why he was there, how long he was there for. I mean, it's a complete hieroglyphics of tattoo. I mean, it's fantastic.
We have sources to make it accurate, but it's still, it's a fiction, but it's close to reality.
The wonderful thing about making this film was it enabled me to flex lots of muscles as a filmmaker in terms of location. It's out there on the road. It's a big road movie travelling across 5 countries. And one of the things I really fought for was to get as many big and dramatic locations into the movie that I could.
Where's he taking us?
There's been a lot of location changes, you know, more than any other film that I've done, you know.
We have about 80, 90 sets, about 50 locations. We're not in any location for more than a day. That is really tough because we are constantly on the move. We never go to the same place twice. You're always moving forward.
A Le Carré story always has the possibility of being, you know, in glamorous international locations, as it's the international world of espionage that he writes about.
We started in Finland, and then we came back to the UK, and then we went to Paris, had a lovely time in Paris, and then we went to the Alps, where it was really cold. We had a little sojourn in Bern, and then we went to the heat of Marrakesh, and everyone was really happy to warm up again.
It gives it a great sweep, a huge scope, and you really feel that you're in a very international world.
The film feels like it has a slightly heightened reality to it. It's certainly not being shot as a sort of grey world with grey men in it. It's got a contemporary feel to it.
It's different from a lot of other Le Carrés in that many of them have looked backwards into the past. They've been a world of darkish interiors. Visually, it's an incredible world. But part of my challenge as a director was to feel I was bringing something new to it in terms of exploring the themes I wanted to explore. I was very lucky in that I got this incredible team on board to explore those ideas with.
Le Carré's work is beautifully set up to be realised on film. A certain amount of the camera work on my part is perhaps inquisitive for the area through which we move, inquisitive towards the faces of the main protagonists. They are very much the face of the film, and there is a lot of talking and character-based moments in this film.
We did a lot with the idea of surveillance cameras, hidden cameras, and Anthony would be hiding cameras everywhere when we were shooting a scene. So sometimes I'd be looking at shots that would pop up. I didn't even know we had a camera there because Anthony would be so inventive.
Susanna's such a fan of John Le Carré and his work and his world. She instills that passion on you as the performer, leading us into this world and getting us to understand how to play in that world.
She recognises what actors need. And she does create that environment for them to express themselves and to do it with their own conviction, to get underneath the characters that they are playing.
It was a rich, rich world which I had on offer, but the other wonderful thing about it was intellectually it's very challenging as well.
It's sort of harder and harder to find movies like this, really. They're really real characters, really human characters.
This film touches on real problems in our society today, which makes it important.
What we're dealing with, really interestingly, is a great deal of corruption in politics and in business. And more of that is being unearthed. It's great to have these kind of themes that are troubling us today in our society played out in films.
You have betrayed your country.